Brain of Britain, the nationwide general knowledge contest, chaired by Russell Davis.
Hello. 48 contestants will be whittled down to one Brain of Britain champion in our knockout competition over the next 4 months or so. Who knows? The eventual champion could be one of the people sitting here with me today as we meet another 4 of our 2021 Brains. We're in the still rather church-like atmosphere of the Radio Theatre at the heart of Broadcasting House in London, which we hope will resound with the applause of a real-life audience again within a very few weeks. Let's meet the contenders in this second heat of the series.
Hello, I'm Toby Cox. I'm a civil servant from Prestbury in Gloucestershire.
Hello, I'm Joyce Fulbrook. I'm a retired teacher from Putney in London.
Hi, I'm Michael McPARTLAND, an office manager from Middlesbrough.
Hello, I'm Rachel Pagan. I'm a communications manager from Pimlico in London.
Thank you. A few personal notes before the competition begins. Toby, I gather you did a river journey on a pedalo, is that right? Which doesn't sound quite like the right craft to me. I mean, they're made for smooth ponds and going about like swans, aren't they?
So this was a charitable venture to get the pedalo from the source of the River Thames to... The idea was the Thames Barrier. It ended up stopping at Teddington Lock because it was deemed not to be safe for the tidal sections of the river. But,
and how long did this take?
Weeks. It's a bit of a relay, so I did some of the early stages, including the overland bit to where the river's actually navigable from. So
yeah. Making things difficult for yourself like this, I mean, does this pastime spoil normal country walks for you? Is it all too boring?
No, I'm very happy with normal country walk. And I'm much less likely to be broken after those as well.
Indeed. Joyce, you spent quite a lot of your career in Addis Ababa, I think.
I did, indeed.
Yeah. What are your memories of that place? Sometimes known as the political capital of Africa.
Yeah, it's a very interesting city, very interesting country. Lot of different cultures, languages.
And changes of, well, a regime actually in your case, weren't there? Because the old regime fell.
When the EPRDF came in, there had been a civil war going on, and they surrounded Addis Ababa at the end of the war, and they descended upon the city, and it was, it was quite an experience, because I was there at the time.
Yes. Michael, what I've heard about you is that you were an extra in the movie Atonement.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. Well, was that? I mean, there's a beach scene in that. It's
Yeah, they filmed it in Redcar, and I'm from Middlesbrough, so Redcar's just about 8 miles down the road. They put adverts in all the local newspapers saying, if you want to come down and dress up as a World War II soldier and stand in the background for a few days, come along, and so I did.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't Canberra Sands, because that's what they always used to use for the carry-on films when they needed sand and a beach, but at least you got Redcar, yeah. Is it just a lot of hanging about being an extra?
It was a lot of hanging about, yeah. We were there very early in the morning, 7 a.m. We didn't stop filming till nearly night. It was summer, so obviously it was still light till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And it was mainly just standing around. I think on day 2 we managed to find some rocks we could sit on. Like snuck away from the main group.
I'm ashamed to say I haven't seen the film, but I will go and see it now and look out for you. Rachel, my sons would love to be in your good books because you work for the MCC, and the cricket world obviously gives you a living, but you must have a great passion for it anyway.
Yes, it's fair to say that did fuel my application some time ago.
Yeah. I've missed Lords a heck of a lot in recent months and years now, it's beginning to be. And when I finally get back there, it will look quite different, won't it? A lot of additions.
Yes, we built a couple of new stands at the nursery end of the ground, named after Dennis Compton and Bill Edrich, who were, of course, the stars of the 1947 season.
Well, thank you, and indeed, thank you all. But serious matters impend, here they are. There aren't really many rules in this contest. I'll ask you questions in rotation until you get one wrong or can't answer, in which case I'll open it up to the others for a possible bonus point. If you should pull off the impressive feat of getting 5 correct answers in a row, that's also the end of your turn, and you're awarded a bonus 6th point. You have a maximum of 10 seconds to think about each answer, but the moment you hear this, It means your time's run out, and I can't accept an answer given after that signal, I'm afraid. Good luck to all of you. Toby Cox, you're first alphabetically today, so would you start us off, please, with the first question. In April 2021, which jockey entered the record books by becoming the first woman to win the Grand National?
Blackmore. Rachel Blackmore.
Rachel Blackmore, excellent, yes. Rachel with an A-E-L too. She rode Manila Times. One of the most influential TV comedy shows in the early 1990s was the Mary Whitehouse Experience, a topical sketch show starring 4 young comics, 2 of whom were David Baddiel and Rob Newman. Can you name the other 2 performers?
Hugh Dennis and Steve Punt.
Who've remained a partnership in the Now Show, of course. In December 2020, William Shakespeare became the first male recipient of what?
A coronavirus vaccination.
That's right, outside of a clinical trial, which don't count those, the first proper civilian to have the vaccine. Sadly, his death, unrelated to COVID, was announced in May 2021. Which 2 elements are the chief constituents of the naturally occurring alloy electrum?
Gold and silver.
Those are the 2. What word is used to describe green PR or marketing, which misleadingly promotes the perception of an organization's products, aims, or policies as environmentally friendly?
Greenwashing?
Greenwashing is what I have here. Green scamming, green speak would do, but you have the best answer. You also have 5 in a row and a bonus point. Well, that doesn't happen often right at the beginning of the contest. He laid down a challenge. Let's see what we can do about it, folks. Joyce Fulbrook, which much-missed contributor to The Observer and other publications, wrote the best-selling book Cooking in a Bedsitter?
Would it be Catherine Whitehorn?
It was indeed. She died in January 2021. In which present-day country is the birthplace of the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Garibaldi?
Italy?
No. And Michael McPARTLAND?
France.
It was France, yes. He was born in Nice, which later slipped out of France and then slipped back in again. Your question, Michael McPARTLAND. Which event of the 20th century was the subject of first-hand written accounts by Lawrence Beasley, Harold Bride, Archibald Gracie, and Commander Lightoller?
The Great Escape.
No. Toby Cox?
The sinking of the Titanic?
Yes, Lightoller might have been the clue. He was the second officer of the Titanic at the time. Rachel Pagan, the BBFC is the independent organisation that regulates the UK movie industry. What do those letters stand for?
The British Board of Film Classification?
Exactly right. Larry Fortensky was the 7th and last husband of which movie star?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes, she married 8 times in total, twice to Richard Burton. With over 19 million active customers, which global online retailer was launched in London in 2002 with the tagline, "Buy what you see on film and TV"?
ASOS?
Yes, acronym for its original name, As Seen on Screen. The spice known as saffron is derived from a flowering plant of which genus?
Crocus.
Crocus is right. Crocus sativus. Toothless the Dragon and Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III are the creations of which author who was appointed Children's Laureate in 2019?
No, sorry.
That one's not there. Toby Cox.
Cressida Cowell.
From the How to Train Your Dragon series of novels. Indeed, by Cressida Cowell. Bonus point to you. And that is the end of the first round. Gosh, what a lot of points have been scored already. Joyce Fulbrook and Michael McPARTLAND have 1 each. Rachel Pagan 4, but Toby Cox has 8. And on we go with him. In which sport, Toby Cox, that made its Olympic debut in Sydney in 2000, did Bryony Page become the first British medalist when she took silver at the Rio Games in 2016?
BMX?
No. Yes, Michael McPARTLAND?
Surfboarding.
Not surfboarding, no. Joyce Fulbrook.
Swimming?
No. There you go.
Women's pole vault?
No, it was trampolining, of all things. Joyce Fulbrook, Edmund of Langley, the fifth son of Edward III, who died in 1402, was the founder of which ruling house in England?
Tudors?
No. Rachel Pagan?
Lancaster?
No. Michael McPARTLAND.
York.
The House of York, yes, the rival House of Lancaster descended from his elder brother, John of Gaunt. Michael McPARTLAND, which sports commentator's 2012 obituary in The Independent said his age was treble 16, double 12.
Sid Waddell.
Yes, nicknamed the Voice of Darts. In January 2021, a rare black fox was spotted prowling around a garden in South London. What name is given to the genetic condition, the opposite of albinism, said to be the reason for this black or nearly black pigmentation?
Sabalism.
No. Rachel Pagan?
Melanism?
Melanism, from the Greek for black pigment, yes. Rachel Pagan's question. Whenever Fred Perry gave one of his famous shirts as a gift, he had the recipient's initials embroidered on them, and usually only 2 initials were allowed. The honour of having 3 initials was bestowed upon just 2 people, one of whom was John F. Kennedy. Which great athlete and equal rights campaigner was the other?
Billie Jean King?
Yes, although the initials were BJM for Billie Jean Moffat, her maiden name. Anna Scott is the name of the character played by Julia Roberts in which successful film of 1999?
Notting Hill?
Yes, the highest grossing British film released that year. The adjective antebrachial relates to which part of the body?
Lungs?
No. Toby Cox.
The arm.
Can you...
Forearm?
Forearm, the area between the elbow and the wrist, is the right answer. End of another round. Joyce Fulbrook 1, Michael McPARTLAND 3, Rachel Pagan 7, Toby Cox 9. And here he comes round again, Toby Cox. The next round begins with a piece of music. They're singing her multi-million selling hit, Total Eclipse of the Heart. The writer and producer of that song, also the man behind Meat Loaf's Bat Out of Hell album, died in 2021. What's his name? Out of time. And Michael McPARTLAND knows?
Steinman.
Yes. Jim Steinman, yes, but Steinman's a rare enough name that you can have that. And we go on to Joyce Fulbrook. How is Rub al-Khali, the name for the largest portion of the Arabian desert, usually translated into English?
The empty quarter?
The empty quarter is right, yes, well done. What 3-word term is given to the kind of richly illustrated Christian devotional volume, popular in the Middle Ages, of which Les Très Richeurs du Duc de Berry, created in northern France and illustrated by the Limbourg brothers, is a famous example?
I don't know, sorry.
Right. Toby Cox?
Book of Hours?
It's a book of hours, yes, indeed. Michael McPARTLAND's go. The deepest lake in the English Lake District is also noted for spectacular expanses of scree, or loose rocks, on its southeastern slopes. What lake is that?
Wastwater.
It is. South Kensington's Natural History Museum is regarded as an outstanding example of Victorian Romanesque architecture. Which Liverpudlian architect designed this world-famous building?
Foster.
It wasn't, no. Yes, Toby Cox.
Barry?
It wasn't Barry. Any more tries? No, it was Alfred Waterhouse. Rachel Pagan now, named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people of 2020, the British screenwriter and actor Michaela Cole wrote and starred in which award-winning 12-part TV series about a young writer coping with the aftermath of a sexual assault?
I may destroy you.
Yes. Which British fashion designer whose flamboyant clothes were worn by stars including David Bowie and Mick Jagger in the 60s and 70s is credited with designing the so-called kipper tie? No. Joyce Fulbrook.
Vivian Westwood.
It wasn't Vivian Westwood, I'm afraid. No. Any more tries? Nope. It was Michael Fish, and not to be confused with the meteorologist. I've got several kipper ties, but the kind of party where you're invited to wear such a thing is happening very, very rarely to me these days, and that's the end of the round. Look at these scores. Joyce Fulbrook, 2. Michael McPARTLAND, 5. Rachel Pagan, 8. Toby Cox, 10. And with things that finely balanced, let's give our brains the chance to sit back for a few minutes and have a bit of a breather. You can take your fingers off your buttons and behave like a quiz team now, because I've a pair of questions here from a listener hoping to beat the brains. We've received some excellent ideas for this section of the programme over the months since the previous series ended. The questions we've chosen for our contenders to tackle today come from Ralph Green in Runcorn. This is purely for fun, of course. It doesn't affect the scores at all, but Mr. Green will be getting a prize if his questions flummox all 4 of our brains when they pool their knowledge. After we've tried out Mr. Green's questions on our panel, I'll tell you how you can go about sending us your own ideas to beat the brains. Here we go with Ralph Green's questions then. He asks you to imagine the LED display of a standard 24-hour digital clock, the kind perhaps most familiar from a bedside alarm. It works by having the LED diodes, those stick shapes, lighting up or staying unlit in the appropriate pattern to make up a numeral. Assuming the hours between midnight and noon have 3 digits, and the hours between noon and midnight have 4, what time is it when the minimum number of LEDs are lit?
Pretty much it's 1 for everything, so it'd be 11 minutes past 1 in the morning. 1:11 a.m.
Exactly right, yes. Only 2 LEDs are lit in each of the ones, making 6 in all, as you say. Each figure 1 takes 2 diodes to make, in other words. Well, it won't come as a surprise that Ralph Green's second question is, what time of day on the 24-hour clock requires the largest number of LEDs to be lit?
So I think you want to start with a 2.
So 2, there'd be...
Or do you want a 0? Hang on.
Is there any... But there's 8, so you want to be 6, so it'd have an 8 in it. Because that's everything lit up.
But at the front, you'll need the 2, you're right. It's a 2 and a 2, Robert Moe.
Or a 6 have more than 2.
The 6 does, but you can't have... So I think the hour is going to be 22 or 23, 56 or something like that.
But 8 was going to be higher.
Okay,
so is it the 58, do we think?
58? Oh, yeah. That sounds good. 23.
Look, yeah, 22.58. Yeah,
Say that.
Yeah, 22.58.
No. Well, I'll read what it says here because it's all beyond me. This kind of question gives me the brain fog. The greatest number of LEDs are lit at 20:08. You can work it out for yourselves, it says here, not in my case, but those digits basically give you 5, 6, 6, and 7 lit LEDs, respectively, making 24 in all. It did rather have the air of a Today programme puzzle of the day, didn't it? Thank you very much, Ralph Green, and well done. The brains didn't manage quite to deal with your questions, although they sounded very confident about it. So we'll be getting your prize to you very soon. And we never send a Beat the Brains contributor away with anything less than a resounding round of applause. So here, in the absence of anything resounding in the radio theatre today, is something we recorded before the pandemic. A hearty well done. You can send us your ideas for questions with which to beat the brains at any time using our email address, brainofbritain@bbc.co.uk. We just need a pair of intriguing questions which can be linked in theme, as Ralph Green's clearly were, or entirely unrelated. Some people send us more than two and leave it to us to pick the ones we like best, which is also fine. I should apologise in advance for our simply not having the time to send a personal reply to all of your suggestions, but we will make every effort to contact you if we plan to include your ideas in a future programme. If you'd rather write them down and send them to us in an envelope rather than use email, you can do that instead, of course. Just address them to Brain of Britain, BBC Dock House, Media City, UK, Salford, M50 2LH. That's the end of the interval. Let's get fingers back on buttons, and it's back to the rivalry. The next round begins with you again, Toby Cox. Which British bird goes by various regional names, including St Cuthbert's duck, Dunter duck, and cratic?
The coot?
No. Yes, Michael McPARTLAND?
Teal?
Not a teal, but it's always worth a guess. Rachel Pagan?
Mallard.
No. Joyce Fulbrook?
The grebe.
No. No, all good swimmers, but this is the eider duck. Joyce Fulbrook, your turn for a question with music. Here's the theme music for a popular 1970s television drama series adapted from the books of Robert Graves. Can you name it?
Claudius.
It is. Wilfred Josephs composed that theme. Which European capital is located on Faxa Bay?
Lisbon.
No. Michael McPARTLAND?
Copenhagen?
No. Toby Cox?
Nicosia?
No. Rachel Pagan?
Athens.
Nope, it's Reykjavik. In Icelandic, Faxaflói. Reykjavik is situated on its southern shore. Michael McPARTLAND, there are various counting systems used by shepherds in the north of England, perhaps the best known of which uses the words yan, tan, tethera, methera for 1, 2, 3, 4. Which word, also a boy's name, is most often used for the number 10?
Tom?
No. Rachel Pagan?
John.
No. Toby Cox?
Matt?
No. Joyce Fulbrook?
Sam.
No. No, it's taken from the Latin, I suppose. Dick. Rachel Pagan, in Beatrix Potter's The Tale of Tom Kitten, Tom has 2 sisters. Can you name either of them? No. Yes, Joyce Fulbrook can.
Mildred.
No. Toby Cox?
Tabitha?
No. Michael McPARTLAND?
Samantha?
Nope. Nope. It's either Moppet or Mittens. Their mother is Mrs. Tabitha Twitchett, that's true to say. End of another round. Joyce Fulbrook now 3, Michael McPARTLAND 5, Rachel Pagan 8, Toby Cox 10. And we come back to him again. Which synthetic resin used to make products as diverse as children's toys, buttons, radios, electrical components and door handles was named after the Belgian-born American chemist who developed it in 1907?
Bakelite?
Yes, after Leo Baekeland. Which billionaire is the chairman, president and chief executive officer of the multinational conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway?
Warren Buffett?
Yes, headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, the place of Buffett's birth. In geography, which very large objects can have constructive boundaries, destructive boundaries, and conservative or transform boundaries?
Tectonic plates.
Yes, correct. At what distance in metres must you be able to read, with glasses or contact lenses if necessary, a car number plate made after the 1st of September 2001 if you want to continue driving?
200.
No. Yes, Michael McPARTLAND.
20.
20, it's only 20. That's the right answer. Joyce Fulbrook's question. Which Kiev-born writer, whose work was banned by the Soviet authorities, wrote his best-known work in secret during the 1930s, a novel in which the devil descends on Moscow to expose the sins and injustices of the Soviet state?
Mikhail Bulgakov.
Yes, the book was The Master and Margarita, not published until 1967, long after his death. Unveiled in Hyde Park in 1822 and said to be London's first public nude statue, the memorial to the Duke of Wellington is an 18-foot-high bronze depiction of which mythical figure?
Apollo?
No. Rachel Pagan.
Achilles.
Achilles, the head of the statue, was based on Wellington's head. Michael McPARTLAND now. To mark the 2021 Eurovision Song Contest, Radio 2 listeners were asked to name their favourite Eurovision songs of all time. Unsurprisingly, acts such as ABBA, Conchita, Bucks Fizz and Sandy Shaw made the top 10. Here's the song that was voted 11th. I'd like you to name the country it was representing and won for.
I'm in love with a fairy tale, even though it hurts, 'cause I don't care if I lose my mind, I'm already
cursed. Norway.
Yes, it was called Fairy Tale, performed by Alexander Rybak. In February 2021, following a clash of heads with a Manchester United player, West Ham United's Issa Diop became the first player in English football to have what happen to him?
He had to undergo concussion protocol. Yeah, he was the first person under the concussion protocol to be substituted.
He was replaced by a concussion substitution. That is right, yes. Brought in to find ways to improve management of possible neurological head injuries in football matches. If your player is concussed, you can have a substitute, even if you've already used up your allowance of 3. Yes. What does the name of the Chinese dynasty Ming mean?
New.
No. Joyce Fulbrook.
Wise?
No. Toby Cox.
Moon.
No. Rachel Pagan.
Powerful.
No. It's tending in that direction. Bright, brilliant. It's to do with light more than anything else. Rachel Pagan, until it was felled by high winds in 2005, a tree stood inside the boundary rope at the county cricket ground in Canterbury, necessitating special rules when it became involved in play. What type of tree was it?
An oak tree?
No. Toby Cox.
Beach.
No. Yes, Michael McPARTLAND.
Willow.
No. That would have been too appropriate. Joyce Fulbrook.
Let's try elm.
No, it was a lime tree. It was known as the St. Lawrence lime. Scores now these. Joyce Fulbrook 4, Michael McPARTLAND 8, Rachel Pagan 9, Toby Cox 13. But this, I have to warn you, will be the final round of the contest. Toby Cox, your question. When found on the label of a bottle of cognac, the letters VSOP stand for Very Superior what?
Old Pale.
Old Pale, yes. Cognac's created from an eau de vie aged for at least 4 years. Over the years, the Duke of Wellington, Winston Churchill, and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, have all held the position of Constable of which castle?
Windsor Castle.
Nope. Michael McPARTLAND
Dover.
is the correct answer. Yes. Joyce Fulbrook's question. Some 10 years before she won an Emmy Award for her portrayal of the young Queen Elizabeth II in the TV series The Crown, the British actress Claire Foy played the title role in a 14-part TV adaptation of which Dickens novel?
Great Expectations.
Not that one, I'm afraid. No, Michael McPARTLAND
Little Dorrit.
was the right one. And it's your question. Lake Tanganyika, the longest freshwater lake in the world, borders 4 countries. You can have your point if you can name any 2 of them.
Tanzania and Kenya.
No. Toby Cox.
Tanzania and Uganda.
No. Joyce Fulbrook.
Malawi and Tanzania.
No. Any more goes? Yes, Rachel Pagan.
Tanzania and Sudan.
No, I'm afraid not. You went all round it. Tanzania, yes. Burundi, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Zambia. And it's Rachel Pagan's turn. A question with music for you, too. Seeing large ensembles of musicians and singers performing in isolation on screens became commonplace during lockdown. For BBC Six Music in May 2020, 80 segregated members of the BBC Philharmonic set about the challenge of performing one of David Bowie's biggest hits, as we're about to hear. But which one is it?
Sound and Vision.
Yes, you're right. Which body met for the first time at Central Hall in Westminster from January the 10th to February the 14th, 1946?
At the United Nations?
The General Assembly of the United Nations, correct. In 2010, which member of a European royal family married a personal trainer and gym owner called Daniel Westling?
Stephanie of Monaco?
No. Michael McPARTLAND?
Caroline of Monaco.
No. Nobody knows. No, it was a while ago. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden was the guilty party. And that brings us to the end of today's Heat of Brain of Britain, with the final scores standing as follows. Joyce Fulbrook, 4 points. Michael McPARTLAND, 10. Rachel Pagan, 11. And Toby Cox, 14. So well done indeed, Toby Cox. We'll be meeting you again in the semi-finals in the autumn. And don't forget, we also invite the 4 highest scoring runners-up of the series to take part in the semi-finals. Some runners-up, after all, get better scores than the winners in other heats. So it's quite possible that Rachel Pagan and indeed also Michael McPARTLAND may be returning too with scores of 11 and 10. We'll see in due course. My thanks to all 4 of our excellent contenders today and to you for listening. Join us again next time. Goodbye.